Nancy Midgette.
I got a feeling that I'm preaching to the choir here in terms of Firewise, because probably nobody in this room is surprised that when you see me, it's quite likely having something to do with Firewise. What I want to do is not introduce you to Firewise, because you already know what Firewise is, but just sort of give you a couple of ideas about what it means to receive the certification that we receive. So all I'm going to do in a few minutes is to look over some of the wildfire risks that we have. You know what most of them are already, so it's not exactly a surprise. There might be a couple of new ones. A little bit about what the Firewise program does, how we've implemented in Montreat, and how we can be safe. Because let's face it, we know we live in the middle of a forest. And so it's not the same as if you're living out in the middle of a field somewhere. We know that we are in dangerous territory. Now, first of all, our geography. Mountainous terrain. One thing to remember, fire goes uphill much faster than it goes downhill. So if you are on the upside of a ridge on fire, move fast. If you're on the downside of a ridge on fire, move not quite as fast. It will grow much faster as it goes up. Now, the one thing, if you remember nothing else from this, remember what is in red. Wildfire travels fastest along the ground and in the crown of the trees. Look at the picture and you'll see what I'm saying. You see that the trunks of the trees are limbless and they're scarred, but they're there. They're not disintegrated to ashes like logs do in your fireplace. So it's along the ground and in the crowns of the trees. If you remember that, then anything else I say about protecting your property will click in and you'll say, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. We have dense vegetation. We have a lot of stuff on the ground. And how many of you knew that two incredibly flammable plants are amongst us? Rhododendron and mountain laurel. If you have rhododendron and mountain laurel growing next to your house, this is not a good thing. Now, I suspect many of us remember 2016, the fall of the Party Rock fire, Chimney Rock. Probably a bunch of you were doing the same thing I was. Your house smelled like smoke because you were doing the laundry for the people who stayed up in Assembly Inn fighting that fire. The year before, the fire that almost came over the Ridgecrest Ridge. Several years before that, a little before my time of moving up here, we have had houses destroyed by wildfire. It was a little bit longer ago. But this can happen to us. I'm actually sort of surprised that we haven't had more in the way of wildfires than we have. Okay. So the purposes and goals of Firewise. First of all, it's community involvement. See, here was my biggest misconception about Firewise. When the Ranger came up in 2020, I was almost apologetic about asking them to come because I looked at the materials. I saw what they say about having a 50-foot perimeter around your house. Yeah, right. We're going to have 50-foot perimeters around our house in Montreat. But he was so wonderful. He said, no, Firewise is not about stripping away your environment. Firewise is about learning how to live in your environment so that you can protect your property and against the spread of wildfire as well as you possibly can. So that made me feel a whole heck of a lot better. This thing is booming and I'm not moving it, but that's okay. Okay. So what can we do? Defensible space around your house. Remember how wildfire spreads the fastest? You know, all those leaves that are piled up under your propane tank? Leaves next to your house, not good. Now, you can't get rid of all the leaves in Monterey, and frankly, the winter wildlife likes some of those leaves. It's not bad to have some leaves underneath your very low mountain laurel and rhododendron that is more than 10 feet away from your house. But don't blow all the leaves so that you have a big pile of them underneath the rhododendron. That's sort of asking for trouble. Fire-resistant landscaping, and I can provide you with some ideas for plants. If you're doing some landscaping around your house, I could give you some ideas. I have publications from the state that suggest that they're a bit more resistant to spreading wildfire. And then it's everybody working together. It's coming to meetings like this. But you know what the most important thing you can do is, well, besides getting those leaves away from your house? Keep track of the hours you spend removing the fuel that spreads wildfire. One of the key tenets of this is community engagement. And so every year, when I send in our reapplication process, which is in November, so very soon, I take all the hours you send me and I put them in a spreadsheet. We have to turn in the number of hours that we spend removing the fuel that would spread the wildfire. And we have to have, Monterey has to have hours based on over 600 homes. Now, not all of those homes are permanent. So we are, in effect, having to produce hours for a lot of people that don't live here all the time. We've always managed it. Now, perhaps that's because I browbeat some people that I know have not sent me hours, and I know that they should. You can send hours that you work. You can send hours that you pay somebody else. If you've hired a landscaping crew, if you've hired college students to rake leaves and bag them, all you have to do is send me an email and send me the number of hours, and that'll go on to my spreadsheet. So that's very important, Kat.
Do you know what your date is in November?
November the 17th is when I have to have it submitted.
Okay.
And I like to have the whole thing put together by about the first week in November, something like that. So, now, and you know, if it just doesn't happen, I can always use it next year, you know. But every year since 2020, we have had enough hours that we have been able to successfully renew. Now, what are some of the projects that we have had? Well, we pay attention to those leaves and debris on the ground, for sure. If you can just move it 10 feet away from your home, that is exponentially better than having the leaves piled up next to your house. Now, that doesn't mean 10 feet away from your house and closer to somebody else's house. But just the further away you can move it from your house and the rhododendron and the mountain laurel, the better. Stacking firewood on your back porch is very convenient, but it can catch fire very easily also on your back porch. Pay attention to what's around your propane tank if it's not buried. If it's buried, then life is good. And then those rhododendron and mountain laurel, the closer they are to your house, prune them back. I have a lot of information on a back table, And there are two separate sheets, pruning mountain laurel and pruning rhododendron. Now, the bottom line is you really just can't kill them. So that's helpful to know. But if you prune them back, then they will grow out and they'll be prettier and bushier and less of a problem. Now, here's one other thing. Remember what I told you to remember? How does wildfire spread? On the ground and in the trees. Okay. Just as bad as leaves piled up under rhododendron is rhododendron that's grown up so high that it's close to the tree limbs, so the rhododendron catches on fire, up goes the fire right into the crown of the tree, and then it's spreading. So either prune the limbs on the trunk of the tree or prune the rhododendron down so that you got about a 10-foot gap. 10 feet's a good number to remember. So you can do a lot to prevent the spread of wildfire simply by taking care of the debris on the ground and making sure that fire won't get into the crown of the tree as much as you possibly can. MRA is great. There's a notice in every Monday that goes out. All you have to do is pull up that community notice from MRA, scroll down to the Firewise. There's a button you can click. All you got to do is click on that button. It automatically pops up an email to me, and you just send me the number of hours that you or someone else has spent. The town is also great in terms of helping get information out in every Friday's Montreat Minute. I can put a lot of information in there as well. There's a lot of information on the table in the back, not just about how to prune, but also a checklist. What do I need to know to keep my house safe? There might be some things on there that would surprise you. Okay. Now, we've had some pretty nice recognition. This might surprise you. When we first applied in 2020 and the ranger came, I was worried that he'd think we were crazy. He was, but for a different reason. He said, you know, it's very difficult for an entire township to do enough to get certified. Why don't you just go for one neighborhood in Montreat? No, thank you very much. There's lots of neighborhoods. We are one of 2 townships in North Carolina that has received certification and has managed to sustain it, and that's because we work together and we know what we have to do. I've had a couple of people call me from other neighborhoods asking, now, how did you do this? How do you do this? How do you get the town council to work with you? Well, that was easy in Montreat. They basically said, oh, woohoo, somebody else is going to do it, and it's not going to cost us anything. That's all right. But Barry keeps track of all of the debris that he removes, and he sends me at the end of the year for my November report the cubic yards of material he's hauled out, except for last November when I did not have the heart to ask him. So when I sent in the application, I sent a picture of Welch Field. And you know what? They were fine with that. The Firewise people understood that perhaps we hadn't quite kept track of the cubic yards, maybe quite as well as we should have. So, at any rate, we've also got some folks in the community that help me. Bob Field helps me. Bob is a member of our committee. Maury Gramling is the other member of our committee. It doesn't take a lot of effort to be Firewise, and this is what the program is about. It's not about making sure everybody has a 50-foot perimeter. It's about being aware of what on my property could potentially cause a problem? And is there something I can do about it? All right. This is a little bit of a problem in Montreat, as we know. We got one way out. The town does have a modicum of an evacuation plan, but everybody should know if we get alert of a fire, two things. Don't wait, and know how you're going to get out. I know, we all think funnel down to Assembly Drive and then out the gate. But if you live up Kentucky and Assembly Drive is just totally clogged, just do a little U-turn to Graybeard and come down West Virginia. You can come West Virginia that way, down to Virginia and get to the gate. We don't have to completely clog up Assembly Drive. Well, the evacuation plan is not my bailiwick. But think about, how will we get out if there is a wildfire? Because that can be a little tricky. Okay, our long-term strategies. The most important thing is manage the fuel, the debris on the ground, and keeping the fire out of the crown of the tree. That's the most important thing that we can do. Think about your house for a minute. Many of you, I know, have a wood-burning fireplace. We love wood-burning fireplaces. How many of your chimneys have a spark arrestor? Do you even know? Oh, well, if you don't know, the next time the chimney sweep comes to clean it out, ask him if you have, that's different from a screen, you know. Ask him if you have a spark arrestor. Because you know what happens when the sparks go flying out of your chimney? Right to the crown of the tree. Think about what else you could do. Look at your gutters. Are they clogged up with leaves? Oh, great. Leaves will just take that fire right to where the gutter meets your house. That's not a pretty picture either. Look at your porches and decks. Can leaves accumulate underneath that? Put up some lattice work. Better yet, put up some screening. That keeps everything out. Well, not the bears. They're not a fire problem yet, as far as I know. So look at your house. Pick up one of the pieces of paper that I have back there about what can you do in your house to help protect your property and stop the spread of wildfire. And then it's our community partnerships. It's looking out for each other. If you see a downed power line, don't say, that's not on my street. Call somebody. Okay. That's the most important thing we do, is keep our eyes open and our minds aware that we're never going to live in a fireproof environment. None of us in Montreat. But there are things we can do to help mitigate the problem. And the biggest thing you can do to help with Montreat's Firewise is to report those hours. Let me know how many hours you spend out doing this, how many hours you've paid someone else to go out and do this. Okay. I'm not very good at technology. Okay, so bottom line, it's a community-driven effort. It's understanding the risks, and it's doing what we can collectively and personally. Okay. So I would be happy to answer any other questions after George. George is next, and he's going to talk a bit about Landcare. Don't forget that I have a lot of information on the back table, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have also. Thank you.
had about 8 topics to cover, so we're going to do some modification rather than go into the same extent of the 8 topics that Firewise was one. I was asked to do something about Landcare, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the idea of Landcare, the history of Landcare, and then try to cover as much as I can about what it means in Montreat. The other caveat is that it occurred to me the other morning about 4 o'clock as I was lying in bed thinking about this. I haven't done a public presentation in about 19 years. So here we go. Try to get those gray cells working again.
What is that in front of your shirt? So,
Oh,
so the video.
oh, okay. Thank you. Landcare started as a concept in Australia after they had a series of major catastrophic events. And they were trying to put their landscape back together again. And it started, it was a private thing. It didn't involve government, it involved committees of community people getting together and putting the country back together again. After going on for several years, the concept then was picked up by some Germans who had seen the work going on in Australia, and they picked up on the idea and started to enhance it a little bit. And now the program has gone worldwide. So it started in 1986. International Landcare got started in 2004, and the global Landcare was 2020. Montreat's Landcare program goes back to, oops, I just dropped the number. About 2004, I think, or 6, something like that. And some of you folks are in the room. I don't do names anymore either, so I'm not about to start naming names. It's just one of those things about getting to this stage in my life, and I know some of you have the same opportunity, so I'm not apologizing. The whole concept, though, of Landcare is that it becomes a personal responsibility to take care of the land and the environment. It's literally a grassroots kind of a program. There's a societal land care or landscape stewardship ethic involved in this. It's kind of like Nancy said, we're all in this together, and that's very true of land care in general. Most of the time, little communities have found it better to gather a group of like-minded people and develop a committee to guide, to provide local arrangements and to provide knowledge, because not all of us understand how to take care of trees. Not all of us understand the problems that we have with water, but we have specialists that we have access to that get appointed to working with these groups and become to do that. It's a whole system thinking, and sometimes people who have a specialty, like a forester, is interested in the forest and may or may not know something about the animals that run through it, may or may not be quite as concerned about the clarity of the water that's running through it. And so we look for people who have those specialties to sit down and talk with the foresters and come to some common understanding about it. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, kind of thing. And this is becoming a very, very popular kind of a concept. And I've seen this kind of thing develop in the course of my teaching years. Back when I started teaching in the 60s, this was not happening at all. And it's been interesting to watch the evolution of this kind of thing happen. And I'm kind of proud to say I've been a part of it in South Carolina, both in the context of community forestry and in the concept of environmental education. Two of the organizations that I was a founding member of are still in existence today and are very, very active in their participation in the state of South Carolina. So I'm a little proud of that kind of thing. One of the other things that the international group has done is identified funding sources. And since this thing has gone international, and I'm talking about most of the countries in Africa are part of this. A lot of the countries in the European Union are part of this. And so a group has broken off, and their thing is to raise funds, and then to distribute those funds to the various counties and communities that are involved in this. Going back in the back of my little pea brain is, I wonder if there's some way that maybe Montreat could tap into some of this money in some way, but I didn't get that far in it. Sidetrack. If you Google Landcare, you're going to get a wealth of information about landscaping companies and not about land care. So Google was very little help. Trying to get some information that I could use. It was very frustrating. So, let's come down to Montreat. The Landcare committee here in town is community-based. All of us who are on the committee have something to do with some entity in the town. So we have the town, we have Montreat College, we have the MRA, the Montreat Trail Club, the Wilderness and Open Space Committee of the Cottagers Association, the Cottagers Group, the Certified Wildlife Habitat Program, and the person responsible is not here, but I'm going to talk about it. The Wilderness Committee of the Retreat Association, and the Earth Ministry team of Montreat Church. So each of these entities has a voice. Some of the entities have two voices, some of them only have one voice, and the committee meets once a month. It's advertised, it's open to the public, it is live streamed, and so forth. I kind of got involved in going to the meetings because of my interest that I've already talked to you about, and the fact that I was heavily involved in teaching students in terms of environmental education and so forth. And I got approached by a person who is known for the ability to twist arms and convince you to do something that you may not have otherwise thought about doing. And so in a weak moment, I became chairman of the existing Landcare committee. I'm not mentioning any names, because I don't do names, but now you know the rest of that story. Okay, what do we do with Landcare? One of the more active parts of it, and I was hoping she would be here to be recognized, is Firewise. We are a Firewise community. We're one of two in North Carolina that are recognized as a Firewise community. We have an established network of bear watchers who notify people in their community, in their street or their section of town, of bear activity, and just to be aware of it. And that's one of the key principles. The other is the understanding that you don't feed bears, give them plenty of space, and so forth. And the town is very, very active in supporting that and advertising those concepts on a very regular basis. Bearwise and Firewise are two things that I'm very happy to see the town promoting on a regular basis. I'm telling you folks, Nancy didn't say it, but this is going to be a banner year for living. I have never seen trees recover from an environmental disaster the way these trees have recovered this year. We are going to have piles of leaves. Anyway, I sidetracked. Nancy covered Firewise, so I won't say any more about it than that. Certified Wildlife Habitat is sponsored through the National Wildlife Federation. Every year we have to provide them with information about 5 new houses that have signed up for it. This year, I think the 5th one signed up last week, so we're good for this year. If you're not a certified wildlife backyard or yard, it's very, very simple. And Bill Neely will, I mentioned a name. Bill Neely will be happy to talk with you about doing it. There is information about it on the Landcare website. That's one of the things that does work on the website. The website, I mentioned the website, is under reconstruction. There are a lot of dead ends on the website right now, and there's a group of people who are trying to put that back together to identify the dead ends and make them no longer a dead end. So if you go to the website, you can get a lot of good information, but you can also be frustrated, particularly if you're not technologically savvy like me. Another program that Montreat has is children's outdoor activities. Montreat is one of the few communities in town, in the state of North Carolina, that participates in a federal parks program, getting children out of doors, recording the information, and earning points. I don't know very much about the program because right now it's kind of stymied. The person who was doing it, the persons who were doing it are no longer doing it. Last week I was informed of a new professor coming to the university who is in their environmental outdoor education program, and I got my fingers crossed that I'm going to be able to twist her arm, and if I can't do it, I know somebody who can, to take on this program, and so that we can get it going again. There's been a lot of misinformation about it lately, but it was a very, very active program for a while, and now it's kind of fallen on hard times. But we're going to get it back together. One of the trails that's recognized is the trail from the Nature Center down to the gate. And as some of you know, that trail has kind of got a bridge missing. And so you've got to know, if you come to the end of the bridge and you see it on the other side, you got to know how to circumvent that and get to the other side. Hopefully that's going to be taken care of fairly shortly. The other thing that we've gotten involved with, and I know very little about this, is the Eco Explore Hotspots things. Again, this is another natural program, and in Montreat we have 3 sites that have been recognized by this program. The Walk Jones Wildlife Sanctuary, the Nature Center itself, and Robert Lake Park. And it's the concept of it is go out and see it. Find out what's out there, then snap it, photograph it, and then share it. And so this encourages kids, and every kid now has a camera every time they go out in the woods, take a picture of what you're seeing and send it to the iNaturalist Network, which is available online. And again, you can get some recognition and so forth. I played with a little bit of this one time when my granddaughter was here, but she was too young to really take advantage of it. And so I need to do it again now that she's old enough that, and she'll pick up spiders and bugs and snakes and doesn't bother her at all. At 11, so I'm sure now that if I can get her back with this material and get her walking, she would do that. Another major concern for the Montreat Cove is the hemlock trees. Landcare as such has a partnership arrangement with dealing with the hemlocks. And the partnership arrangement is Landcare has the capability of accepting funding that the hemlock people needed in order to get the program going. And a number of years ago, people who I don't know, I think a couple of them are gone actually, got the program started, and then a few years ago, another group got involved with it and picked up where the first group left off. And it's a combination of efforts between the Retreat Association and this current group that is currently working on it, and there's some new individuals who have gotten involved with the tree board, which is another entity, but the tree board has gotten involved with this thing and is again in the process of raising funds, have convinced a provider of services to come and do the treatment that couldn't be done last spring, later in the fall when the time is right. So we receive the funds, it's pass-through thing to the city that's authorized to receive the funds so that you can count it as a donation to the project. And that, as I say, is an ongoing thing. Our relationship to the tree board is kind of interesting. The tree board had to be formed via an ordinance to meet requirements for Tree City, USA. And we've been at Tree City now for a number of years, and they will continue to do that. There is a move afoot, and I'm not sure how compliant this is going to be with the city, to get the tree board to come on board with us so that we can kind of work together. The relationship that Landcare has with the tree board right now is the chairman of Landcare has to attend tree board meetings.
Yeah.
Go figure. So there is a connection there, but because it's a fundraising type of an operation, the tree board can't receive money as such without going through Landcare. Complicated, but it works. So we'll take advantage of it. One of the other things that has been very, very successful for the landscape group has been going on for a number of years, and it's a combination of things. Recognition of Earth Day got coupled in with the native plant sale. The native plant sale kind of got things started as near as I can tell from the history. And I can remember one year when the native plant sale was down at the gate in the green space on the side of the road, and a bunch of vendors showed up and a bunch of people showed up, and that went on, I think, for 2, maybe 3 years. We weren't here then, we were back and forth, so I don't know how long that lasted. Eventually it got so big, and the complications of the plant sale, introducing speakers, topical things, learning how to use plants, learning how to take care of bees, learning how to do butterflies, learning what's available in Montreat, a whole plethora of different things, taking advantage of the lecture space and more, taking advantage of the more field expanded space to bring in plants. Then we had a little brush with a hurricane. So this year we did not have a plant sale. And there were a couple of good reasons for that. One of the things we found out in last year's plant sale is we had a great deal of difficulty in getting vendors to come because Montreat is a small community and they could do better going to plant sales in Black Mountain and Swannanoa and Asheville, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we had a hard time recruiting vendors to come here. Now, we had some very loyal vendors, and everybody's still talking about strawberries from a year ago. We have a young lady who's a PC graduate who's a very loyal vendor and loves Montreat. And butterflies. So she likes to come and be here. So this year, under the direction of a new committee, because the old people have been doing it, like a lot of things, kind of got burned out with it and frustrated with it. We have a whole new committee this year. They have been meeting fairly regularly now for the last 2 or 3 months and putting together kind of, some plants will be for sale, but it's more going to be a social activity, getting people involved in the community, knowing each other, knowing what Landcare is about, topical kinds of things and so forth. And I only have a little bit of information on it, and I'm afraid to go much further with it, but it's going to be an October event next year. In other words, don't get your calendar out today and mark down. It's taken a while to put together a group of people who to get excited about this, to begin to line up a program and so forth. I know a few of the people who are doing it, and I know who's chairing it, and I know she is going to do a bang-up job, and we will have a very, very good program once we put that together. Another thing that Landcare has been involved with, you heard the butterflies mentioned, we've been promoting the monarch butterfly. And if you've been reading any literature here lately, the monarchs are in serious trouble this year, real serious trouble. The numbers, particularly on the West Coast, are way off. And so this is going to be a problem to be dealt with for a number of years. So keep the monarchs in mind. Now, I want to conclude with a project that's become very near and dear to my heart. And one that's become near and dear to a bunch of you, and that's Flat Creek Crossing. We have tied in with Landcare so that we can receive funding, so that those of you who've contributed can count it as a tax deduction. In other words, the 501c3 concept, same as we did with the hemlocks and so forth. Something about a storm again has kind of set things back, because we were supposed to be having an opening celebration this month. It ain't happening. But we are moving forward. We had a committee meeting again earlier this week. The committee has been in touch with Barry. The committee has a new blueprint because the stream changed, thank you to that unnamed storm. And so we have some new opportunities. One of the things that we really are glad to see is that we have a fully sunlit environment to work with, whereas we were working with a shaded environment, and that limited the kinds of plants that we put in. Now we've got a pretty good selection of plants that we can put in that will make a real difference. The permitting process has changed a little bit. We were pleased to find out that our original program we had to get from the city was extended because of that famous storm again, so we didn't have to go through the reapplication process for that, which is a help. But there are a couple of other permits that are in the works. Our designer is taking responsibility for filling out most of that information, getting it taken care of. We've enjoyed tremendous cooperation from Savannah, Barry, and the lady who takes care of the money. Angie. Angie helps everybody. We'd be lost without Angie. I don't care what aspect of Montreat you think about, we'd be lost without Angie. Period. End of sentence. No, Rachel, thank you, down in the business office. Those folks have been very, very excited about the prospect when we first got started talking about it. When we started to ask permission to do it, yeah, let's do it. What's going to take you so long to put this together? This is wonderful. And folks jumped into it right away. So it is going to happen. We've got a couple of bumps to get over, but we're all optimistic that we're going to get over the bumps. All right, let's see. I think I managed to get it all squeezed in. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What is the Flat Creek Crossing?
Oh, thank you. We must have a newcomer.
She's a newcomer.
Oh, you're a newcomer. Wonderful. Well, welcome to Montreat. As you entered the gate, and if you looked off to the right, just after you passed the gate, you saw kind of a wide open space that kind of went down to the creek. One of the things that Montreat is known for, not only for those of us who live here, but those who come and visit in the summer, kids, adults, is Flat Creek. Getting to Flat Creek, rock hopping, and just being near the water. If you are an individual with some kind of a walking difficulty, some kind of a physical impairment that doesn't allow you to get to the creek, then you couldn't get to the creek, you could not enjoy this particular feature of Montreat, which is so near and dear to so many people. So our plan is to construct a trail that will be handicapped, totally handicapped accessible, whatever the handicap is. It will be a smooth trail, it will have guidance for sight impaired. It will have the ability to get literally into the water as we get through with this thing, so that if you're sitting in a wheelchair, you can ride down this trail and get into the water. Ultimately, we'd like to connect this to other trails in the area with lesser abilities for handicap availability, but at least we can get people to the water. And so we're calling it Flat Creek Crossing. The storm did us a favor in the sense that it created a much wider spot for us to work with on the other side. It kind of took away some of our proposed picnic area and planted grotto area, but this too can be worked with, and we will work with it. The city has graciously given us the wooded area between the trail and the pump house to develop as kind of an open parkland setting. And all of this will serve as a primary entrance actually to the Memorial Garden, which is an MRA project and Odyssey project, but it'll give us access to trails and so forth. It's gonna be very exciting. The planning's been exciting. Getting it together has been exciting, but when we see it and get into it, it's gonna be very exciting.
Is there a projected completion date?
Well, yeah, this month. No, Helene really caused us a serious problem. One of our primary funding sources has put a hold on the funding because it's a Buncombe County source and they want to see if there are other needs in the county that need to be met before our need is met. One of the things that I'm optimistic about is that there is no other outdoor site that is handicapped accessible in Buncombe County to the extent that we want to do. So we feel like that's a very positive in going to the county for asking for help.
Is there a projected cost?
I'll let Jean answer that. She's know more about this than I do. It's only
Yeah,
money.
I didn't come prepared with the numbers in hand, so this is gonna be a little loosey-goosey. We submitted a proposal, which we won, to Accessible Parks, which is a state funding program using federal dollars. We got that funding for $255,000, I think it was, by reimbursement. And that started like the beginning of last summer, and it goes for 3 years. So we're a year behind schedule at this point. The phase that George is talking about, we have those funds in hand, and those were for bank stabilization, so it's preliminary work. But once we start the preliminary work on raw ground, we need to continue. So it's gonna be a cash flow issue. At this point, if we need to ask for more time, we will. But I think our best way to think about it is that first construction of the trail itself, the grotto, the initial picnic area, and a welcome center to follow that's up at parking lot level. We have 2 more years to get to everything but the welcome center. We probably need to do some more fundraising to get that last piece of the construction done because of the withholding of Buncombe County funds. We thought that was gonna be enough to finish the job, and we don't have that money. And then we have other dreams to go beyond that, but let's say we've got 2 more years of initial funding to get the first project done. Okay?
Thank you.
Are you a 501(c)(3) and can you apply for grants that are eligible for 501(c)(3)?
We're applying under the auspices of the town, which both opens opportunities for us and limits some opportunities for us.
Like the Christopher Reeves Foundation, are you eligible to apply for that?
If we have to be a 501(c)(3), then no.
That would be an interesting.
Yeah, it would be.
I have to brag about George. His dedication and his love of just getting out. And if you go through the gate, and you might see some little piles if you look over to the right. I mean, it's where the Terminex guy used to live or park. And he is a dedicated, of course, I have always felt he shouldn't be down there by himself. Because then I send Eric, and then I think, well, he shouldn't be down there with them. Because of his joint issues sometimes. But George has focused on the environment. He lives up and loves what is going on. And he recognized, even when he was in Hartsville, the necessity of getting children or anyone of now in our age to be able to get to a beautiful area without having to have people lift you or going across. It's like everybody has the right to get to the creek, just like you see everyone has the right to get to the beach. And so what has happened is that Patty Powell, who chaired all this, she was walking her dog one day and recognized that that would be the only area that you could go, get out of a van, get down on the gravel area there near the gate and the columbarium. And it was just that straight thing, went right to, it was like going right into the creek. If you go anywhere else in Robert Lake Park or the Lake Susan or go up to Graybeard, you have to climb down rocks. You cannot get anywhere. But that's the only place we found on any little creeks that come into our, Flat Creek. That was the best and only place that someone can, and we have found women, older women, going down there in the summers with their folding chairs, and they go to sit in the middle of the creek. Now, they could walk down and get there, but we have had people on our committee like Christina Turtolo, who has worked with Accessible, and then of course people from the college. The gentleman that now has the equipment over across from Louise's kitchen. Old Fort is. I mean, there are a lot of areas that, and I know that the standards recently went an hour away and went into all the things that you can get now to get into a boat or any kind of and enjoy the creek or river. But George has been dedicated. He is the person in the right place at the right time to inspire so many of us.
Well,
I'm sure he'll want to do another term of the chair of Landcare.
Other questions?
I know we're out of time. I just want to fill in your gaps. It was a great presentation. I'm glad to see what Landcare is doing and all the projects you're up to, but I'm just going to fill in some of your gaps. I like to name names.
Oh, wow.
I was on the original Landcare when we first started. The town used to have a parks and recreation department, even though we had no parks and no recreation to get grants. And Ron Nally was our town administrator. He used to participate in the Land of Sky Council. Jim Skokie brought the Landcare concept to Montreat, and we formed Landcare because we had at least 7 different entities that were all doing their own thing. Wilderness Committee, Trail Club, college. So Landcare was, like you're saying, it was to get the individual entities together just so I could see everybody, what everybody else was doing. And that's how it started. You mentioned, so the original participants was O'Neill Tate, Ron Nally, I think Jane, I don't know if you were there or not, but Donnie Schulman from the college, J.D. Moore, myself, Rusty Frank, and a bunch of old people that are, like you're saying, not here anymore. And just clarify the Hemlocks. Well, one, all your funding thing, the town is the fiscal agent for Landcare and Tree Board and Hemlocks. So you don't really give money to Landcare, you're giving it to the town so you can get the tax deduction. So it's not a 501(c). The Hemlocks project and the original concept of Landcare was that these original 7 entities could do their own projects and coordinate and do whatever. But if a private citizen came in and had a project, he could present it to Landcare and get support or join it. So John Johnson was my neighbor on Shenandoah, and he independently came up with the thing, let's save these hemlocks. Because the town was only, the conference center was only treating the ones by the lake. So he started the project, brought it to Landcare, Landcare jumped on it, Rusty Frank, myself, a couple others, and we treated all the hemlocks from the gate to the lake, raised $15,000, $20,000 to treat all those hemlocks. And we've done now 2 other phases. So we've done another phase of chemical, another phase of reducing the predator beetles, and the most recent one this spring is I got Hemlock Restoration Initiative here to retreat the ones from the gate to the lake chemically. And Ashley Munson got her tree guide to do real expensive injections of the 15 trees that are near the water that we couldn't do the regular treatments on. So hemlocks was not really a Landcare project per se, it was a private citizen science. So anyway, I went too long and named too many names, but I probably missed a bunch of people, but I'm glad to see it's going great and you got a lot of projects and a lot of participation, so thank you.
I need to let people go, but if you have questions for George or Nancy, they will stay here for 2 or 3 hours. But that's not true. Anyway, let's close with a prayer, but let's first of all say thanks again to Nancy and George. Let's bow together. Almighty God, thank you for the gift and the responsibility and the joy of living in your creation and being stewards of it. Help us to work together. Help us to do everything that you have empowered us to do to be adequate and good stewards of this environment. And help us, oh God, always to be thankful and to know that we are not owners of this environment, but merely the stewards who will one day hand it on to those who come after. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thanks, everybody.